So welcome to our presentation, which is entitled Agriculture, Culturally Sustaining Pedagogy and the Digital Divide, the What, Why, and How of Low Technology Science Distance Learning. I'm Dr. Lori Anderson from the University of Hawaii at Manoa, and my co-presenter is Dr. Ko-Ming Wei from the Center for Getting Things Started.
So this project is supported by the USDA, National Institute of Food and Agriculture, and was in a rapid response project towards COVID-19.
So what inspired us to write this grant, to do this project, were some challenges that we observed in the local context. First, we saw that there was a general lack of instructional resources to support conceptual development within agricultural science instruction. Second, there was a definite digital divide. In Hawaii, we had 30% of students that did not have the quality internet access to fully participate in distance learning. Third, the pandemic caused some drastic changes to the local food systems, which increased levels of food insecurity for families and heightened their need for agricultural science knowledge. This project focused on low technology distance learning, and we noted that high technology distance learning uses video conferencing tools to facilitate learner interactions. But we needed a low technology distance learning option that would provide more equitable access, but this required us to pay attention to learner interactions and provide alternatives.
Thank you. So the distance learning pedagogies we engaged with and in was a strategy from Hancock titled Essential, Desirable, and Optional, and we'll explain that a little bit more. And then models of interactions, and really focused in on recommended roles for family members or community members, especially here in Hawaii, we have extended family living together in home-based distant learning. So essential are the activities that are essential for the student to gain the outcomes, to learn the outcomes. Desirable, next step is it's wonderful, it'll be great if we have it, but if we don't have it, the student will hopefully still, and by design, still learn their outcomes. And then optional, as you can imagine, is an optional activity. So in school, usually there's a teacher-student interaction. If you don't understand the content or you're struggling with the skill, the teacher can step in and reteach, re-show, teach in a different way. At school, in a face-to-face situation, there's also the interaction of student with the content. So for example, in our context of school learning gardens, the students might be in a garden and they review and reuse their skills right there. And also there is the teacher to content interaction. However, in a home-based setting, we really needed to add and expand this model of interactions to include now family and community, as the teacher wasn't there most of the time, or if the teacher was, it was in a virtual setting.
So we've included a few examples from our materials to show how we use this model of interactions. So in this example, we see a talk icon that is, and this is where we are guiding the students to be able to talk to their friends or family members to have that interaction to develop their understanding of the content. In this case, they are looking at learning about the plants that they've identified in their home and why they're important. So all of this comes together because we wanted to support the conference theme of the what, why, what, and how of science curriculum. So the big takeaway here is that we had a locally developed scope and sequence that was our primary tool to identify what science content we were going to teach, rather than using the NGSS. And the reason why we made this choice was that our primary focus was local cultural relevance and developing food sustainability knowledge. So what we did to address the challenge was we worked with two groups of teachers, one group of teachers for grade 3-5 and one for grade 6-8, to co-develop lessons that would facilitate culturally sustaining, low technology distance learning and increase engagement with agricultural science in the context of learning gardens and food sustainability. So they did this by applying the distance learning pedagogy ideas that we mentioned previously and using their existing pedagogical agricultural science and science content knowledge that they had from prior PDs that Dr. Coming Wei had run with them, and also by using curriculum writing principles that they were taught during the course to create accessible, high quality distance learning resources.
So just to put it in context of this scope and sequence, several years ago, or maybe more, almost a decade ago, we were funded by the USDA to create the Hawaii School Garden Curriculum Map. There are 4 themes in the map, and these themes are culturally relevant and place-based. The first theme being cultivating a deep sense of place, being rooted in deep knowledge of place and sustainability. So again, really using this cultural funds of knowledge and making sure everything is very relevant. The next theme, obviously, is part of being agriculture science, is this interaction of the living soil and the living plant. Being interconnected and related to the living soil and plants really makes life possible. So coming from a perspective that life begets life, and the cultivation of soil leads to the cultivation of plants and leads then to the health of the human being, which brings us to our third theme, which is nourishment, where we feed both our mind and body, and if I may also add, maybe our soul, our emotions, with what it needs to stay healthy and to flourish. So in this theme, we really explore what it means to eat, where does our food come from? And lastly, we have something called nature's design, where we really thought about systems and cycles, relationships in nature as it is seen in a school learning garden. These were the 2 culminating products, which were the student workbooks. As you can see, one for grades 3 to 5 and 6 to 8.
So just briefly, we did evaluate the teacher author professional development, and we did not find significant effects on knowledge of distance learning pedagogy and science content. We didn't have a significant gain, but we did learn a lot from their written reflections, and that they thought that the frameworks that we shared with them were valuable tools in creating these materials, and that they valued collaborating with their peers during this activity. Now, our findings from teacher, users, and students have been delayed. The ongoing pandemic has delayed the teachers' use of the materials. We've heard back from teachers that they were using them during the second quarter. Well, second quarter is now just ending. So our data collection is still in progress, and we will have data from teachers and families once we are able to gather that data. So again, relating back to the theme of our what, why, and how strategies, culturally sustaining pedagogy strategies were used to select content that supported Indigenous knowledge. This is the why of why did we select the content that we did for these books. The essential, desirable, optional framework was a strategy for streamlining the content and optimizing accessibility. And this was a student consumable, so there had to be space for the children to write in the book. And lastly, we wanted to focus on local issues first, and then support the NGSS elements, the disciplinary core ideas, the science engineering practices, and the cross-cutting concepts as they were appropriate for the grade level and fit with the local issues and the culturally sustainable content. So we feel that this is a way to improve equity in science education. The project is relevant because the populations served by the project are historically underrepresented in STEM, and they're also underrepresented in curriculum materials. When you look at the kinds of science curriculum materials that are available to be purchased or to be downloaded even, they focus generally on places and organisms that may not be even present in Hawaii. I'm thinking about the unit about squirrels, for example. So these are important for students to be able to see themselves in the curriculum and for it to be relevant for them. Also, low technology distance learning is an understudied phenomenon and an equity issue because there are students who do not have access to high-speed Wi-Fi still, even with all the initiatives with the
Well, thank you all very much for allowing us to share our project with you. And we look forward to learning more from this conference. And we also look forward to hearing back from you any thoughts or feedback about our project. So thank you all very much. Mahalo nui loa. Ahui ho.